Smoke weed every day. smoke weed every day.
Trump is still the president, and Biden has not won this election.
Ah, Biden, you're changing it. If you don't start making more sense, we're going to have to put you in a home. You already put me in a home. Then we'll put you in the crooked home. It's on 60 Minutes.
To the Be Progressive Show. It is Monday night, February the 1st, and we have been talking a whole lot about the COVID situation as of late. It's still a nightmare. It's definitely a nightmare here in Indianapolis and Indiana. It seems as if people just do not have any interest in following any of the rules at all around here. So I and my wife and child also contracted COVID a while ago, and we, on the 6th day, ended up getting the monoclonal antibodies. Now, my wife is a physician, so we were aware of this, but it seems like a lot of people in our area are not really familiar with what the monoclonal antibodies are, or if they're available. In Indiana, I was able to pick up the phone, call my primary care physician, and within not even an hour, I had an appointment to go get the monoclonal antibodies. Well, the monoclonal antibodies are antibodies that have been taken from people who have already had COVID, and then they clone those antibodies. And we, my wife and I both were feeling, pretty rough, but overall, it wasn't terrible at 6 days in, 7 days in, somewhere that's where we were at. And we ended up getting the antibodies, and the next day immediately felt better. The day after that, we were, pretty much back to normal. I mean, really close. So I'm not saying that this, that the antibodies are some miracle drug or cure, but it did definitely help us. So if that's something that you can check. Now, I know that some states do have like certain restrictions on who can get them depending upon your age and depending upon your BMI and other factors, whether or not you're capable of getting them. So that's something that you should talk to your primary care physician. We had, we have health insurance. It didn't cost us anything at all. And I don't know if that's sponsored through our state, if there was, subsidies there or what that was for. But yeah, we didn't have to actually pay anything at all. So, really why I wanted to bring this up was, I saw that how mismanaged the vaccine system is and what's going on with this. There's an article here where it says this is the MIT Technology Review, and they said that basically the entire system from top down basically was riddled with mistakes and errors. And I'm not going to go through and read this entire thing. You can read this, but the Trump administration really botched the vaccines. Of course, they really botched pretty much anything they touch. But the actual website for scheduling this, the CDC for scheduling the vaccine, is what this was here. That was totally mismanaged. And they would have people, says, quote, when I showed up, they said they wouldn't honor my appointment. They were only doing their own staff. That was one of the options that this lady picked. She wanted to go to this place and get it. It was available. There was a time. She showed up. They said, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't give shots out to anybody. I mean, it's a mess. And it's pretty much a mess all the way around. So, I'm not a big Biden fan, but let's hope that Biden can get, some of this stuff straightened out. And this kind of mismanagement is really run rampant throughout the states too, not just federally. Here in Indiana, one of the links for the county that I live in, the medical association for that county had put out a link for medical professionals. If you worked, if you were like an RN or a doctor or work, in the medical field, that our county was allowing you to come and get a vaccine. But the problem was instead of just releasing that link to, all of the healthcare provider companies, the hospitals and the doctor's offices, and just giving that link to those people and then restricting it when you log in to prove somehow that you are who you are as far as a healthcare worker. And none of that happened. Basically, the link got put out to the public, and everybody in the area signed up and lied and said that they were, healthcare workers, and then showed up. And there was my wife actually was able to get the vaccine right. She got the vaccine a few days before she actually got COVID. She was already sick from it at that point and didn't know it. But when she went to get the vaccine, they were basically running out because everybody in the county was coming there, and they were so dumb that they didn't even realize that. And they didn't. My wife's a doctor at a local hospital. They didn't even ask for her credentials. They asked for her ID, and that was it. Walked her right in. She could have worked anywhere. And so this kind of rampant mismanagement is really hurting the COVID fighting, in the states and federally. And now that the Trump administration is gone, this is the CDC. So I don't know how much of the CDC was influenced by the Trump administration in terms of getting this put together, but let's hope things get straightened out a little bit, because this is a mess. So anyway, moving on, just a real quick thing. I won't talk about this a whole lot, but I saw that one of the Lincoln Project co-founders, John Weaver, I guess, has for years been sending unsolicited and sexually provocative messages to young men, often while suggesting that he could help them work in politics, according to interviews with 21 men who received them. Now, the Lincoln Project did a great service in fighting Donald Trump over the 4 years. They were all never Trumpers. They're all Republicans with half a brain cell, but they are still Republicans. And so, sorry. Thanks for the help. Don't care about you now. Good luck. So, all right. Let's move on here. Yeah, I saw that. Looks like Scotland is poised to be the first federal government to investigate Trump's finances. Now, Trump has a golf course there, and it looks like they are going to investigate him. It's said that quote, an opposition debate in the Scottish Parliament will set out the arguments for ministers to apply to the Court of Session and act on growing concerns over how the former U.S. president's holdings in Scotland were acquired. While the issue has been discussed 3 times at Holyrood in the past 12 months, the coming debate is significant. A vote by MSPs calling on ministers to seek a new WO would not be binding, but it would be substantially increased pressure on First Minister Nicola Sturgeon to act in the line of Holyrood's will. Scotland is further along with any publicly known federal government investigation into Trump's finances. So, why are we not doing something about it? I'm sure that something is going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about yet. But I'm glad to see that other countries that the moron Orange Waterhead has his businesses in are, stepping up to the plate and doing their investigation as well. So we'll see what comes of that. We'll keep following that. Let's see, what are we going to move to here? Going to move through quick tonight. Going to be a quick show. Life. That's how it is. I guess we'll continue to talk about Marjorie Taylor Dum Dum. It looks like the longer that this goes on, the more the Republicans are trying to step back. And it says the Georgia GOP cringes at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, well, they cringe, but are they actually going to do anything about it? So, I don't know whether or not the Republican Party honestly cares whether or not anything that this woman says is true, because they themselves just lie all the time too. Their lies aren't quite as egregious, but do they really? Does the Republican Party really not feel that way about that, or is she just saying the views out loud, the things that you're not supposed to say out loud, which is probably what's going on. I wouldn't doubt that a large majority of the Republican Party in secret really supports, her actions. But the Republican Party and the GOP for her state of Georgia is basically in panic mode right now, because the world is now focused on Walker County, Georgia, the home of the QAnon dum-dum. And the GOP is not very comfortable about that. So Let's see what's said here. There was a quote I wanted to read. If you quote, if you ever have any common sense, you know she's an anchor to the party. She is weighing us down," said Gabriel Sterling, a Republican election administrator who became a leading voice criticizing the baseless election conspiracy theories espoused by Trump and his supporters like Green. Quote, "Some people are saying maybe House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will throw her out of Congress," Sterling said, referring to the House Speaker. "The Democrats would never throw her out. They want her to be the definition of what Republican is. They're going to give her every opportunity to speak her mind and be heard and look crazy. Like that one came out Wednesday that the Jewish space laser started the fires." I mean, I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you go. So yeah, these people are like, no, we don't want this person representing us. And that person is right in terms of, it would be nice from the Democratic standpoint to leave these morons like Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress, just strictly for what the damage that she's doing to the brand for the Republican Party. But I think there are a few people in the Democratic Party that actually truly really want her out, and I mean for good reason. We discussed I'd uploaded a video over the weekend talking about more of her lunacy, and I guess I don't know what the play is here for the Republicans. They know that her and Lauren Boebert and Josh Hawley are, they believe this QAnon crap and they help spur on this insurrection and stuff, and they know that, but are the Republicans really going to stand up? Are they, if it comes down to kicking her out, because from this point, up until this point, the Republican Party has surprised me over and over again with the things that they are willing to let go that are said by their Republican lawmakers. I mean, Trump for 4 years. All the scandals that happened there and everything, and they just got on their knees and bowed their head and kissed his ring. And so if they're willing to put up with him for 4 years, I don't really see them getting rid of her or Hawley. I don't see them getting rid of anybody. And I also talked about in that video that there was a Politico article, the opinion article, that was talking about how we shouldn't be removing members of Congress because of what they say or what they believe or whatever, and that it should be based on action. Now, of course, they mean if she broke the law and did something like that, then sure, but they're trying to say that the voters voted her in, and that's who should vote her out. And that's the centrist argument on that. And it makes sense to me to some point. I mean, we can't willy-nilly go throwing people out of Congress. It really does need to be an egregious act. But I really honestly feel in this case that Marjorie Taylor Greene has checked all those boxes. Helping incite an insurrection, supporting those people, having those people in D.C. before it happened. Her and Lauren both had militia members in D.C. and had done photo shoots, and there was tours of the Capitol. What was said during that time were weak security points discussed during that time, were different pieces of information about who the higher ups, where they go and where they get hid. Lauren was tweeting out that every time they would move Nancy, she would tell everybody. So I think these offenses by the two QAnon twins here are egregious enough that, yeah, I do believe in this case that they actually do need to be thrown out of Congress. Now, you can look at people in the past, before all this happened, that had terrible views, that believed in really dumb things, like, Louis Gohmert and, the guy that brought the snowball into the chamber. I don't remember if it was the House or the Senate, and tried to say that was proof that climate change didn't exist. These are all stupid positions, but they're not generally dangerous. And we have put up with all of that and let all of that go. But in this case, there are some significant actions that, liking more than once on Facebook and social media when people talk about killing politicians, we can't do that stuff. Like, that's grounds for removal. And unfortunately, as Cenk Uygur moves further and further to the right, he actually came out in a tweet and said the exact same thing that Politico opinion piece said, that we should not get rid of her, that we should let the voters, vote them out. Well, I'm sorry. Yet another position with Cenk Uygur that I don't agree with. And it's sad. I used to be Young Turks, and Cenk Uygur is what got me involved in politics in probably 2008. Somewhere before then, maybe even back when they were a small show on YouTube. And I really respect Cenk and the Young Turks for trying to advance the progressive agenda and help get people in, Justice Democrats and things like that. I respect what the Young Turks have done over the past. But that being said, a company that size can't continue without some donations or, some big money. And I don't know if that, I don't know anything about the behind the scenes of the Young Turks. I don't, you hear Jimmy Dore and him spray all that stuff about them selling out and taking money and all this. And honestly, I don't really know if that's true or if that's what's changing their views on things. But the Young Turks are not the leftist station that they used to be. And not that they were ever too far left to begin with, but they were further left than they are now. So anyway, that's enough about that. Moving on here. Of course, Alan Dershowitz has nominated Mr. Jared Kushner for the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, this is just ridiculous. So it says Kushner, who is Trump's son-in-law, and Berkowitz, who is the Middle East envoy, were key figures in negotiating deals between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. The two former deputies and the President Trump were nominated by American attorney Alan Dershowitz, who was, come on, man. You can nominate these tools all day, but you're never, no one's going to give Jared Kushner a peace prize. Jared is part of the Trump family, but not Trump blood. So Jared's a little bit smarter and keeps his mouth shut most of the time. Jared is the scarier type of the Donald Trump that we don't need. The quiet, not completely retarded, evil, knows how to keep his mouth shut, knows not to say the things out loud, knows to just stay in the background and work his evil and get his policies passed, That's Jared Kushner. And that's what everyone was hoping that Mike Pence wouldn't be. And he turned out just to be kind of quiet and not really all that bright and moved on. But, Kushner is dangerous. And I feel Kushner is going to be a problem going forward, even without Donald Trump in the office. So, all right, we're going to move on here. Let's see. So in terms of the QAnon stuff, I should have hit this one before, but there's a secret ethics panel that's going to judge Hawley and Cruz for their involvement in the inciting of the insurrection. So, we've had Jimmy Gomez has called for the removal of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they have 55 some co-sponsored on that already. So I don't know about that, but there's also talk of removing Cruz and Hawley. And Hawley, I would suspect more so would be apt to being removed than Cruz. I don't really expect Cruz to be removed or anything. But anyway, an ethics committee, a blind ethics committee, so we're not going to know who they are in the initial. I don't know if this will be released afterward, but it's being led by Chris Coons, called for Texas Senator Cruz and Missouri Representative Hawley to resign, and Vice Chair James Lankford of Oklahoma, and he is a Republican, so who planned to challenge the election results himself before backing away the invasion capital. Coons and Lankford speak frequently to each other and have a warm relationship, just as Coons did with former Chairman Johnny Isakson. I guess I don't know how to pronounce that name. The two senators will keep a tight lid on the highest profile ethics investigation in years. Quote, neither one of us are going to talk about it at all, Langford said in an interview. We don't bring up anything on the ethics stuff at all. We don't confirm anything, and we're pretty lockstep about that. So hopefully this ethics committee can dig in and find, what exactly happened. What were the exact actions? What were the text messages that we didn't see? What were those, the communications between those and the outside? And hopefully all this comes to light, and then we will hopefully move to remove one of the two, or if not both of them. All right, so let's see what else we've got here tonight. I saw that this was news that the Myanmar, there's a coup that is happening. Now, this is an actual military coup. This is not a clown show coup. And in this case, the military was on the side, or not on the side, of the leader of Myanmar, and actually pulled off a military coup. And this is actually what happens when the military is on your side, and is what everyone was scared about when it came to Trump. Does he have enough influence over military leaders? And the answer to that is absolutely not, and we saw that. That doesn't fly in the United States. I don't really know how smart or how charismatic or whatever what it takes, but I don't think you're ever going to sway the United States military to perform a coup. I just don't really ever see that happening. And I don't really discuss a whole lot of foreign policy stuff or other countries, but I saw this and it just reminded me like how close we really could have been there if the military was just on Trump's side, and it's scary to think, we see these things happen in other countries and we don't give it much thought because, American exceptionalism, we all think we're just the biggest and the best and there's nobody better. So when you see these things, it is kind of frightening to realize what we just went through, and that, some people in America that was just a bunch of mob, crazy people doing stupid stuff. We were never that close. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that, and I don't ever want to get that comfortable with the idea that somebody like Trump is going to not use the military, So these are things that we need to really watch. That's kind of scary. So, all right, let's move on here. Let's listen to Chris Wallace tell us some more stuff. Chris Wallace here is saying that there's an outrage in the GOP over Liz Cheney, more so over Liz Cheney than there is Marjorie Taylor Greene conspiracies.
There are
now
two
we're going to watch
words
an ad
that usually determine if you're ever going to...
Because I couldn't be bothered to preview this. Here we go.
Right now, where there is more visible outrage inside the GOP over Liz Cheney, a member of leadership, voting to impeach the president, rather than some of these wild conspiracy theories being espoused by Marjorie Taylor Greene. How serious is this for the GOP, and what can they do about it? I mean, they take her off committees, expel her? What are their options here?
Well, I think you're right. I think it tells you a lot about where the Republican Party is right now, that Liz Cheney is undoubtedly going to face a primary fight the next time she's up for election, that there is at least a possibility that she is going to lose her place in the House leadership because of this vote of conscience she took. While Republicans in private express concern about Marjorie Taylor Greene, not many of them are willing to speak up in public. And the toughest punishment that is being seriously considered is taking her off the Education Committee, which is something I think that probably is not even a slap on the wrist, doesn't do anything to stop her from espousing views. You think about, there are big wounds on Capitol Hill from the January 6th assault on Congress. That's what you heard from Nancy Pelosi when she was talking to reporters in the clip you played. This is the kind of language we have not heard from Capitol Hill since the Civil War, and it's not over yet.
Well, there you go. Out of the mouths of the Republican Party, this might not be very good if they keep her in, and it looks like they're worried. This whole Liz Cheney thing, that is a bunch of horse shit. Like, I'm not a big fan of Liz Cheney. I'm not a big fan of, obviously, Dick. But this whole Liz Cheney thing with the Republicans is just crazy. They're after her because she had some sense and common sense, basically, to say that, hey, look, more votes came in for Donald Trump than they did for Biden than they did for Donald Trump. And looks like there's no election fraud here. We've had 60 cases, nothing. So I think any intelligent human would move forward with that and say, hey, this is it. It's over. We lost. Move on. And GOP does not care too much for Liz for that. And I don't know why that's such a big deal, like they're saying here. Liz Cheney speaking just truth, admitting that, hey, Trump lost by millions. Why is that a big deal? Why is that controversial? It's the truth. And that's a big deal, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is no big deal, And I don't know if the Republicans just think that she's like some fringe person that, she won't be reelected and we'll just let her run her mouth and we'll get rid of her in a couple of years. I don't know if they think that, but that's not true, man, especially after Trump lost. I don't know how fervent these Trump supporters are going to continue to be. Are they going to continue to vote for these people? Are they going to vote her out? I don't know. I don't trust the Republican Party anymore. I mean, not that I ever did, but, I don't trust them to do the right thing. I don't think they will. I think that the voters would put her ass right back in there because her feelings are the mainstream feelings for these Trump supporters. They're not far off. All of the things that she's retweeted and liked and the wanting to kill politicians and saying these things and locking them up and, just all unfounded claims. There's literally no proof. The whole QAnon movement started because they say Democrats and liberals in Hollywood and liberal lawmakers are a part of a pedophile sex trafficking ring. They eat babies. They do. I mean, that's the foundation that you started with Q. And it's went further than that, How can you still believe in these things? How as a party can you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and Hawley and say these are the people that we want to represent Republican constituents? I mean, you are not the party of morals. You're not the family values party. You're basically, at this point, if you let these people in, you're just seditionist. You're just domestic terrorists like they are. No different. So if that's what you want to pin your reputation to, then go ahead and pin it to Q, and the Democrats will laugh as you lose every election from here on out. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But we do know that the military and the police that were involved, there was a disproportionate number of current and former military personnel that were arrested in the Capitol attack. And is there any surprise? This is also the police. This is the policing military culture. Is the far right wing positions of militias and the Marjorie Taylor Greenes. That is the culture of the military and of policing in general in this country. And so, is it any surprise that we found active military personnel and veterans overrepresent among the first 150 people to be arrested? And they said that the analysis by CNN of Pentagon records and court proceedings showed 21 of the 150, or 14%, are current former member of the U.S. military. That is more than double the proportion of servicemen and women and veterans in the adult United States population. Calculated from Census Bureau and Department of Defense statistics in 2018, there were 1.3 million active duty members of the service and 18 million veterans. Together, they comprised about 5.9% of the overall 327 million population at the end of 2018. 2 of those arrested are in the Army, 2 are National Guard, 1 of the 17 veterans are 6 are former Army, 8 former Marines, and 2 served in the Navy, and 1 was in the Air Force. Their service records show at least 1 served in Vietnam even. So, the Trump propaganda, the Q propaganda, was able to work itself in to just about any of these on the right, any of these groups, the police, the military, the Capitol Police, they should have been held to a higher standard, compared to who they're or why, who they're guarding and what they're guarding. They should have been held to a higher standard, but no. They had to remove, they brought in National Guard to secure for the inauguration when they put up the fencing around the Capitol building and all that. And they ended up having to yank many of the National Guard off of that duty because they had ties to far-right social media, militia groups. This is a very cancerous thing that is working its way through the military and the policing in this country, and it's scary. Of course, there were veterans, there were Proud Boys. Sorry I couldn't help but laugh that the leader of the Proud Boys was a snitch. That was hilarious. Honestly, hope they take down all of them. I hope he ratted on every single one of them. But we'll see what happens to that. Let's see if there was anything else I wanted to cover tonight. I think that was pretty much it. Trump did, the one other thing was Trump did get a new legal team. He did eventually find somebody that was right-wing crazy enough to defend him for his impeachment trial. And so I'm sure after this is over that this attorney's office will lose an enormous amount of business. And I don't even think they'll stay on the whole time. I have a feeling that they're going to start and then they're going to quit after they see how dumb the man really is. So we'll close with that. Dumb Trump and his dumb lawyers. So we'll see what happens, but I hope that they do the right thing and convict Donald Trump and make sure that he does no longer gets a presidential salary and he no longer gets a Secret Service and all the things that you don't get when you're impeached and convicted of sedition, which is pretty much what Trump should be convicted of if he is not. So anyway, going to wrap it up for tonight. I'm live 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, Eastern Time. Just please like, subscribe, comment, share. Any of those things really help out new YouTube content creators. We have a very difficult time getting started. And so any of those things are highly appreciated. If you like the show at all, then subscribe, like, and share. We will see you all tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I am Brandon Neal, and this is the Be Progressive Show.